What's on TV right now? I'm okay.
Hi, folks. My name is Millennial Smart, and I'm back at it again.
Wow, there's literally nothing on TV right now. No, I'm good. I've seen this plenty of times before. No. Oh my god. Oh my. Okay, there's literally. Okay, is it? Okay, you know what? You know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna go outside. I don't need this shit. God, this channel fucking sucks. Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Millennial Smart, and I'm bringing you the 2025 retrospective review, where we're gonna go up and down the entire year, revisit some moments, talk about some events that happened that stood out amongst the rest, talk about some MVP players here and there, talk about some awards that should be given out, talk about some pay-per-views that ended up sucking and ended up being amazing, some matches that ended up sucking and ended up being amazing, and you know what? Now, if you do want to go directly to certain spots, I do have timestamps, as always, in the description box below if you want to click around. Also, in the pinned comment section, you're going to notice all the awards, because I might not be able to get to that one in particular, just like last year. I might even actually skip it, because there's no point in actually highlighting each one. It's just my opinion at the end of the day anyways. But if you do care, or if you want to give some opinions on it, I'll leave that in the pinned comment section below. All my rewards, or awards, pretty much detailed in the same manner as to last year. The awards in themselves is an influence from the Wrestling Observer newsletter, and the categories as far as the amount is influenced by PWI, right? Okay. Let's talk about some of the news events, right? Because there are 4 big news stories, just like last year, that I do want to highlight in particular and give a lot of time to. But surprisingly enough, there were a lot of news stories that came out of 2025. It might not sound like much because every day is a revolving fucking door, but hear this out. I wrote down all of this. This is the benefit of being a news coverage channel, if you will, or a commentary channel. I know everything because I covered everything. Check this out. Some of the stuff, some of the smaller minor news tidbits. Hogan gets booed on Raw. The Chris Charlton Tony Khan drama from New Japan Pro Wrestling versus AEW, right? Aleister Black and Miro return to WWE. Ricky Starks leaves AEW for NXT. The Rey Fenix drama. Corey Graves crashes out. Jada Parker versus the LGBT community. Mariah May leaving AEW. Velveteen Dream attempts to return just to get cancelled again. The Jey Uso saga. Triple H and Rock drama surrounding WrestleMania. Drew McIntyre and LA Knight drama backstage after the Royal Rumble. The Megan Bayne Thunder Rosa botch drama. Ryan Nemeth goes after AEW and potentially CM Punk. Edge and Jon Moxley does a stupid spot involving a spike bat. Shayna Baszler and Jade Cargill have an altercation backstage. A bunch of releases happening throughout the entire year, up and down the fucking card. Booker T and Swerve Strickland have their tit for tat, if you will. Mickie James gets destroyed by the internet over her opinion regarding women attire. Charlotte and Tiffany Stratton drama. Kevin Owens neck injury. Roman Reigns praises Donald Trump. Javon Evans and Ricochet go back and forth. Ric Flair attacking Jim Ross after hospital visit. The Rikishi and Zila Fatu drama over his mother and father for Umaga as well. Karrion Kross leaves WWE with Scarlett Bordeaux. Tiffany Stratton called a racist. Goldberg retires. The 6 Feet Under drama with Undertaker and Michelle McCool. Travis Heckle leaving Jim Cornette's podcast. The JD from New York, Hog, and Mercedes Moné drama. The Raja Jackson saga. Jack Swagger crashes out over AEW. Matt Riddle and MLW controversy. Ava, The Rock's daughter, goes after Charlie Kirk. Andrade contract issues. Masha Slamovich goes after her boyfriend and beats the shit out of him. Seth Rollins' injury. The Sarah Stock I Can't Stop Running My Fucking Mouth saga. Ridge Holland doesn't know how to shut the fuck up. the Tegan Knox Miranda Alizé drama, West Side Gun versus WWE, and finally the Ariel Helwani and Tony Khan interview. I know, I'm just as surprised as you guys. I did not know that much went down in one full year. I thought to myself, like, wow, this was a really, really boring year. Not a lot of news came out of this. And then I read all this and it's like, oh, that's right. Again, the benefit of running a commentary channel. All you have to do is just look at your videos and just write down the titles and just go over it. But a lot of shit to go over in regards to the news. That's just the minor stuff. Let's kick it off with our first news article. And by news article, I mean news subject. Okay, cool. Let's get into that real quick. So I'm going to take it from less important to more important news, or more consequential news, if you will, right? And we're going to kick it off with the R-Truth drama. So as you guys know, as I mentioned, a bunch of mass releases happened earlier this year, right? Involving Braun Strowman, involving people like, Dakota Kai, for an example. People getting released up and down the card on NXT. A lot of people got released. But one of the key releases that people could not let go, people were focused on, and rightfully so, because I can understand where they're coming from, especially knowing that R-Truth has been with WWE at this point in time for nearly 20 years, right? If you take into his entire run there in its totality, it's been 20 years. But focusing strictly on his latest run, he started in 2008, and originally he got released in 2025. So he grew up. He actually was on television, and a lot of people grew up watching R-Truth on their television for over 17 years. And I can see why people resonated with R-Truth to the degree where they felt offended on his behalf to see him go like this, right? And he dropped that tweet letting everyone know that he got released, and he did it in the most unceremonious manner possible, honestly. Just like he got released in the most unceremonious way possible as well, right? And that stirred up a hornet's nest. I mean, that created such an uproar. R-Truth was trending like crazy. His tweet got like 100,000 likes or something like that. Something fucking insanely crazy. Maybe even more than that, because I think Rhea Ripley, just her response to R-Truth alone had like 50 or 60,000 likes, right? So the world was going fucking mad over this truth. They were calling it racist. They were calling it an injustice. All this other shit, right? Only for R-Truth to have been gone for maybe a week or two, maybe 2 weeks maximum, right? Because R-Truth eventually did show back up to WWE programming. More in particular, the Money in the Bank show. And the reason behind this controversy, it doesn't just stem off of the initial release. That's already bad enough. Surely, obviously, right? That's already bad enough. But it's the stuff that happened directly afterwards that really, really rubs people the wrong way, right? And it's because, like, I personally have been one of those people that have not necessarily defended Triple H, but just called the accusations of him being racist ridiculous, in my opinion. I still do think they're ridiculous. But it was really hard, right? It was really hard in the sense of, like, I know it's still ridiculous, but, like, he releases R-Truth, and now you're going to give people more bullets to aim at you with, right? Not necessarily as hard to still call them retards, but, like, it's like the whole, Jewish conspiracy stuff, right? With Kanye West. Like, how Kanye, kept calling Jewish people all these anti-Semitic stuff, and then they go out of their way to censor him, right? But it's not censoring him necessarily because they want to shut him up. They're censoring him because they're making their brand look bad, right? But to everybody else, you can misconstrue that and you can make it about, oh, see, the Jewish people are doing these things to me type shit, right? That's how I look at the R-Truth for Triple H situation. It's ridiculous, right? But nevertheless, though, like I said, he returned to the Money in the Bank show earlier this year, and he attacked John Cena. He attacked John Cena because the storyline was John Cena's the reason why he's not here, right? Type shit. I don't know how they got away with doing that without actually explaining it on television necessarily, in real time, mind you. But that's what they did, and it was ass. It was absolutely ass. It was dog shit. And I'm not talking about the initial return. That was fucking hard. That was tight. That was lit as fuck. The actual return. It's just the follow-up that was ass. And as you can see right now, as time goes on, it feels like this happened 10 years ago, right? You had R-Truth get on top of the announcement table. He's like shaving his head. He's talking about the truth is going to set him free. Dude is going mad crazy. No more ha-ha R-Truth. Don't call him R-Truth anymore. It's now Ron Killings. Like, they really had something with this entire storyline. And then they just let it go. And then R-Truth is like going around saying this is his last contract with WWE. And he's very much aware of his limited time there. And he's essentially there just to make money. You know, this man cut off his hair. He really, really wanted to get into the groove of things in regards to his character and how he wanted to write his swan song. And like, I see people who are like angry on behalf of R-Truth as far as how he's treated. I'm not gonna lie to you. I couldn't give a shit about R-Truth. What I care about is the potential of having such a monumental story that could have rubbed off on other superstars, especially building into the new season going into WrestleMania. We're like, what, like 2 or 3 months away, 3 months away from WrestleMania? That story could have potential to lay foundations to build into a WrestleMania if you played your cards right. And it's just like, you know, all the way up to R-Truth, you know, when John Cena turned babyface randomly, we'll get to that later on, you know, him saying, is it really you? Is it really you? It's like, damn, bro, like y'all had such a perfect storyline, such a perfect thing to use to intertwine with other superstars to build into the next pay-per-view, to build into WrestleMania even, you know, if you played your cards right, eventually, and then it just falls through the cracks, and now R-Truth and his entire story is just a distant memory. But man, the drama that came out of that initially was fucking breaking the internet in real time at that time. Crazy how they didn't take advantage of that, and crazy how they let that slip through the fucking cracks. If anything, that's why people go after Triple H as hard as they go after him. Look at how he let this fucking story slip through the fucking cracks, bro. Absolutely insanity, if you ask me. 2 monumental returns also happened this year that we have to discuss in a little bit more detail, right? First one, which I feel like is the more enthusiastic one, just because she was gone for more longer, but I feel like the other one is more important and more consequential. So we'll kick it off with AJ Lee first, because there's no controversy necessarily surrounding AJ Lee's return, right? It's just, she's back. She's been gone for 10 years, and she's back. She's actually been gone longer from WWE than CM Punk was gone originally when he left in 2014, considering he returned in 2023, right? And everybody was happy. Everybody was throwing their babies up in the air, catching them. I ain't talking about your old lady when it comes to catching my babies. I'm talking about actual real life. I'm gonna disown this motherfucker when he gets older, or I'm gonna go get the milk and I'll just pretend as if he has a new father when he enters the house type of baby, right? You get what I'm trying to say? That kind of real love type of shit, that black love, if you will, right? That's what I mean as far as AJ Lee goes in regards to her return and the excitement that people have for her returning. And you know what, I will say this, because personally, and I've made no bones about it, I never cared about AJ Lee. Quite frankly, I still don't care about AJ Lee. As a matter of fact, I'll go as far as to say that I thought she was overrated. I always have thought she was overrated, and nothing has really changed my mind. But I can understand how some of the people who are like in their 20s, you know, maybe, you know, mid 20s, if you will, I can understand how you guys feel about the situation, because, you know, I was your age at the time when AJ Lee, like imagine, bro, I was 21, 22, 23, no, I was 23 when AJ Lee left for the first time back in 2015. I was 23 years old, right? And there's a good shot that you were like 11, 12, 13 years old, right? And now you're 23 years old. Are there any women, like say for an example, I don't fucking know, like if I don't know, Liv Morgan, right? I know she has a lot of people who like her and a lot of people who hate her, right? If Liv Morgan were to leave WWE today and then come back 10 years down the road when you're in your early to mid 30s, are you gonna give a shit? I don't think you are. That's how I feel, right? Because I just didn't really care for AJ Lee. I never thought she brought anything to the table, necessarily speaking. I don't know what you guys personally see in her, to be quite frank. But, hey, it was what it was. It is what it is. And she's here right now. And it brought up some more stuff, in regards to, her feud with Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins and teaming up with CM Punk and some stuff that she's probably going to potentially do as time goes on. She already participated in the War Games match. I can feasibly see her most likely doing something at the Royal Rumble, probably participating in the Royal Rumble match in itself. Most likely she's going to probably be even at WrestleMania. Whether or not she fights for a title, I don't know. And quite frankly, don't care, nor do I want to see her anywhere near a fucking title. And I'm not really doing myself any favors here, completely burying her like this when I'm supposed to be praising her, right? But that's the best I can do. So moving on to the next person that returned to WWE this year, and that's the Beast Incarnate himself, Brock Lesnar. Now he's a little bit more controversial, right? Like I said, from an enthusiasm standpoint, obviously, I feel that's going to lie more on the side of an AJ Lee because she was gone for a longer period of time. But as far as a consequential, as far as what it actually means for the future, right? It's a little bit more nuanced when it comes to Brock Lesnar because we all know why Brock initially got put on hiatus, right? Got put on ice for the 2 years that he was gone from WWE. And that's because of the situation regarding the Vince McMahon, Janelle Grant situation. There's a reason why I didn't talk about it during the whole miscellaneous minor news rant that I went on earlier. And that's because I wanted to tie it up to Brock Lesnar right here. I wanted to bring it up in this situation. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about it because we've been down this road plenty of times before. Trust me, type in Vince McMahon, Millennial Smart. You can see all my videos. I probably made dozens upon dozens of videos about this throughout this year and last year, right? More in particular last year. We already know the situation, but just for a bit of a TLDR, Brock Lesnar got pics from a woman named Janelle Grant who peed and sent it to him. 2 consenting adults, yada yada. We've been down this road before, right? Not gonna go down it again. But that's the TLDR. Well, Brock Lesnar ended up coming back to WWE, and a lot of people were rubbed the wrong way, right? You have people within the wrestling media talking all their shit over here. You have wrestling fans who they look at the situation and they want to pretend to be super angry. They don't like the fact that Brock Lesnar is back after taking pictures from a consenting woman. No, they hate all that, right? You got the women in the locker room who take pictures all day of themselves half naked and they put it up on Instagram. And I guarantee you, if we go off of the history of someone like a Saraya, for an example, I promise you, those women are just as fucking nasty as the Janelle Grants of the world taking video shots of herself pissing and sending it to her Brock Lesnar. Promise me, I promise you, I promise me and you that it all goes down in the locker room. But of course, they want to morally grandstand as well. We don't want to be in the same locker room and share the same building as the Brock Lesnar. I highly doubt Brock Lesnar changes inside that building amongst you fucking plebes anyways. I promise you, that it's all just a massive virtue signal. I said it then and I'll say it now. I'm not going to sugarcoat shit. It's all a massive virtue signal that they're using in order to placate their audience, to pretend that they're a good person or whatever, right? It's so stupid. It's so nonsensical. But he did return off of those stance, off of that stance in itself. And, he's already made himself welcome at home, right? He participated in the War Games match. He utterly fucking destroyed John Cena. Not once, meaning, the first time he returned to SummerSlam, but twice when he fucked him up again at WrestlePalooza. We'll get to that later on as well. And it's rumored right about now that Brock Lesnar is going to go on a similar retirement run as John Cena after AJ Styles, because apparently he's up next to have his retirement tour, and they want to do the same thing with Brock Lesnar, and potentially, just to bring him up real quick, they're talking about doing it with a Chris Jericho if he actually ends up signing with WWE, right? But this is the path that they want to go down towards with Brock Lesnar. And there are rumors going around that they want to use Gunther as well to retire Brock Lesnar, just like he retired John Cena and Goldberg. We'll see as time goes on how that news is going to play out. But yeah, AJ Lee, Brock Lesnar, two of the biggest news tidbits that needed their own little standalone talk. They needed their own standalone timestamp to discuss a little bit more intuitive. But the next thing that's going to come up in regards to the news might shock you guys a little tiny bit as far as priority, because like I said, the last thing I want to talk about is the biggest priority in regards to news coverage this year. But it's John Cena and his retirement. Now, if you're listening like from point A to point B, you're not skipping around, you didn't see any of the timestamps, I'll save the last one for a surprise. I mean, it's not really a surprise in terms of something gleeful to discuss, but nevertheless, I'll save it for a surprise, by definition. But John Cena, I feel like, is probably the second biggest news story to come out of the entirety of 2025. If for nothing else, it's because he's John Cena, right? He's one of the GOATs. He's one of the people that pretty much kept WWE on his back, and he pulled that wagon when no one else could pull the wagon. I won't glaze him up too much. I still got my 100 greatest wrestlers of the 21st century, 1 through 20, coming out on Wednesday. I'll save the glazing for that right there. But John Cena did retire this year, right? He made his announcement at the Money in the Bank show last year, and he made it known that going forward, everything and anything that he ends up doing is going to be the last time he does it on that particular day. Which had all the little kiddies in the world, coming out with their Power Ranger hats on and their Power Ranger colors and their pew 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 Fruity Pebbles pew 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 attire on and accessories, right? Because everybody wanted to pay tribute to John Cena. Everybody wanted to be there when John Cena decided to hang up his Chuck Taylors or Jordans or whatever the fuck kind of shoes he typically wears. And I can see the enthusiasm behind it, obviously, right? It's John Cena. You can see me, one Cena. Right, I get it. I understand. I just wish we would have taken this a little bit more, we would have taken this a little bit more seriously, all right? It would have been some thought put into this, because it's clear as day, the thing that comes out of John Cena's retirement is that there was no thought put into this whatsoever. No clear, decisive thought put into this whatsoever. We're talking about this man winning or coming second in the Royal Rumble, right? Right? Jey Uso is the one that won the Royal Rumble. See how that turned out. He ended up jumping into the Elimination Chamber. He won it under very suspicious circumstances, right? And he turned heel that night. Right? He ended up hugging Cody Rhodes and all that shit. Then he kicked him in the dick and yada yada this and yada yada that. And we're off to the races with John Cena as a heel. Everybody was super excited. It took him took him over 20 years to do the deed, right? It took him 20 years to finally do the goddamn deed, and he finally did the deed. And then we seen the events that played out as time started to go on. The first problematic point came when he cut his first ever promo. That was problem numero uno. Was that he cut his first promo. And it was one of the most Nickelodeon kid villain-esque, "Ha-ha! I am an evil villain and I have a plan to take over the world!" type of promos you would possibly ever see. It's like Cena forgot how to be a heel. Like, it was such a dog shit promo. And then as time started to go on, there's nothing that Cena is necessarily doing that's interesting as a heel. Never mind the fact that he's missing a lot of dates in between, and I get it. That's how his contract is structured. But like, you're supposed to be going on this like all-timer type of run, right? It's John Cena retiring, and it's like you're barely showing up for any of the shows throughout the entire year. So people aren't as invested or aren't as engaged with you or the product, and they're not really doing better as far as giving any kind of filler to sustain you not being here at that moment. Like, it was just dog shit. Nothing of the sorts made it worthwhile. And then he went to WrestleMania and he won the WWE Championship from Cody Rhodes, and one of the worst main events in the history of WrestleMania. You had Travis Scott, of all people, get involved and be the determining factor in WrestleMania. In the WrestleMania movie, you had John Cena hit Cody Rhodes with a championship belt to win the championship at WrestleMania. Mind you, this is weeks of Cody Rhodes owning John Cena, who's a heel. Like, you're like, what is going on here? Like, but that's what happened. That's what happened. And like I said, in between that time, he didn't do much with anybody, at least enough to make it fulfill. Like, I didn't feel fulfilled. I felt like you gave me an appetizer over and over and over again, and the main course never came to the table. You had him wrestle Randy Orton, nostalgia, that's pretty cool. You did the same thing with the likes of a CM Punk and the AJ Styles. That's fine, that's cool, but it's like none of this stuff, like, you barely did much with him and Randy. I might be stretching it here. They might have had 2 promos. Might. You know, with Punk, I think you had that 1 promo and that was essentially it, right? You might have gotten 2 promos out of him as well. You did nothing with him and AJ. Nothing at all. Period. Point blank. Then, like I said, you do all this stuff with R-Truth. That could have been something. But you can't waste your dates. So, I mean, what can you really do, right? You got to make those dates count. So all the stuff that you could have done with him and R-Truth to tell a decent story, you threw it away on a free episode of SmackDown. Or was it Saturday Night's Main Event? I can't even fucking remember. Potentially the biggest story of the entire year. Like, you actually did the thing that CM Punk was afraid of you doing to him during the Money in the Bank 2011 season during the Summer of Punk, because you were so focused on Cena and Rock that Punk and Cena overtook that feud as being the better of the two, and Punk was afraid of you doing to what you done to R-Truth to him. It's like, it's stupid, bro. It's stupid. And then time started to go on, and then you had a killer match with Cody at SummerSlam. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the video. But I mean, where did that go to? You gave the belt back to Cody. Cena randomly turned babyface with a promo. Like, it was so dumb. It was so fucking dumb. It's like they literally just insulted our intelligence. It was so fucking dumb. He literally just turned face out of nowhere. Just to drop the belt right back to Cody. Then you're barely seen throughout the next couple of months. You do things here and there. You show up to Survivor Series. You win the Intercontinental Championship like 2-3 weeks prior to that. You drop it right back to Dominic Mysterio in your first fucking title defense. Literally, for what? You just did it just to give it to John Cena. Just to say, hey, Grand Slam. Then he goes to Saturday Night's Main Event and he has his match with Gunther, and then he retires. Nothing substantial whatsoever. And the substantial things that happened were so lackluster. It was minuscule, and it was just terrible. This was such a dog shit tour. This was such a terrible, terrible way to go out for John Cena, and it was like, I just didn't see the point in it. You know, you hyped this up for months after Money in the Bank 2024, and this is what we got. And now Cena's retired. Good for him. Great career. You know, dude was the Pied Piper of professional wrestling for 20 years. I get it. Well, really 10 years. Roman came around 2015. But you get my point, though. He was the guy for a long time. And it's wild to see it all come to an end in such a unmesmerizing type of way, bro. That's the part that gets me the most with it. But good luck to John Cena. He's still an ambassador with the company. He's still going to be showing up here and there. He's just going to be in a suit instead. He's no longer wrestling ever again. Left his boots in the middle of the ring like 2 weeks ago at Saturday night's main event. So, it is what it is. At least you got the WWE Network. Oh, wait. Can you get that working anytime soon? Anyone? Please? Someone? Help me? And finally, what I believe to be the biggest story to come out of 2025, and quite possibly, I think, without a shadow of the doubt, this is probably top 10 biggest news stories of the entire decade. Honestly, maybe even number 2. I put this right behind the Vince McMahon scandal, and some people may even put it above the Vince McMahon scandal, right? The death of an icon. Terry Boyle, aka Hulk Hogan, passed away July this year. And to a lot of people, especially like in their 40s going forward, this is the death of professional wrestling for them, right? Like, for them, this is the earmark that has completely taken away the last piece of their childhood. Right? This is the equivalent of Stone Cold Steve Austin, also passing, The Rock passing, John Cena passing, Roman Reigns passing, knock on wood for all of them, by the way. Don't want anything happening to them, obviously, but that's the equivalent for obvious reasons, right? You can hate Hulk Hogan, you can love Hulk Hogan, you can say whatever you want about. Look, I get it. I get the history. I understand. I get it. But me as a wrestling fan, I feel like I owe me even talking to you right now. It's all because of Hulk Hogan. That's why. I am here talking to you guys because of Hulk Hogan for multiple reasons. But 2 of the main reasons being, he's the reason why WWE is mainstream. The best tag team of all time, Hulk Hogan and Vince McMahon. You know what I mean? And to be even more direct, the NWO. The NWO is wholly responsible for why WWE got their shit together and kicked off the Attitude Era. The Attitude Era is the reason why I got into professional wrestling. I would not be getting into professional wrestling right now had it not been for the Attitude Era. I came in seeing naked women and fighting and blood and cursing and beer and telling people to suck it and eyebrow raises. That's front flips off of ladders, getting thrown off of cages. That is what got me into professional wrestling. The product that you see right now, there's no way I would have gotten into professional wrestling through today's product. There's just no way. There's no way for people to be like, oh, you would have watched professional wrestling. No, I became a professional wrestling fan through the Attitude Era. I didn't start off as a wrestling fan. No, I came in because of the pomp and circumstances surrounding professional wrestling. The pageantry surrounding professional wrestling. And then I got into the wrestling in itself, the in-ring stuff, and the more intricate stuff in regards to professional wrestling. But surface levels, that's how I got into professional wrestling. And that exists primarily due to the NWO. And the NWO only worked because Hulk Hogan turned heel and joined them. You see, never mind all of the progressive far leftist people who don't watch professional wrestling, who have this stance in regards to constantly interjecting themselves inside things, breaking shit, and then leaving us to have to pick up the fucking pieces. I think even if you happen to be on the side of the so-called progressive hardcore left, I would like to believe that your politics come below your professional wrestling. I would like to believe that. If not, okay, I apologize for being wrong. You're more of an activist than I thought you were, right? But I would like to think that for the majority of people who don't want to pretend as if politics is their new fucking religion, even if you care about certain things, professional wrestling is still the tippy top thing, right? And I feel like if that's your outlook on everything, then your outlook as far as the the conclusion, right, is Hulk Hogan has done so much for the business that I wouldn't be here watching the program had it not been for him. And that's the respect that I want to focus on. I don't want to focus on the racist stuff. I don't want to focus on him being a complete dick. I don't want to focus on Terry Bollea. I want to focus on Hulk Hogan. I don't want to focus on Terry going backstage and burying people. Look, I'm not here to say Hulk Hogan was a good guy. That's obvious. I'm here to say that I'm a professional wrestling fan first, and I'm going to focus on Hulk before focusing on Terry. This is not a Chris Benoit situation when Hulk Hogan went around and he started, murking his wife and murking his son. No. He did things that were deplorable, in my opinion. Deplorable in the sense that it's immoral. Multiple things. It doesn't take away from how I feel about him in regards to professional wrestling. And not to mention, the things that these people, and I get it, it's the internet, it's social media, it's online. Obviously, you're not going to be able to stop people from saying shit, right? You're not going to be able to do shit about that, right? You just got to roll with the punches, and you have to always think to yourself that the cretin that's on the opposite end of the computer screen is always going to be some guy who, he only does this between us like this because in real life you probably stuff him in a locker, right? You probably give him a swirly, you probably pick up his underwear, pull it high enough where you can see the brown stains on them, and that's just the way that it is, right? These people, these are monsters in the end of the day, right? That say shit in the manner as to how they said it about Hulk Hogan. And like I said, they always have to make you out to be a monster, even if it's a minor disagreement. They have to make you out to be a monster in order to justify why they're monsters. That's what happened with Hulk Hogan. You can even have Vince McMahon come out and, praise the man and, say what he wanted to say about his friend before people came out, and they have to make it about themselves, right? They want to pretend to make it about the situation, but it's about themselves. They don't care. Was that the time and place to do it? No, of course not. But of course, they don't care about that kind of shit. They did it anyways. The amount of people that I've seen online talking about how happy they were to see Hulk Hogan dead. It's like, who wants to be associated with these people, right? Who wants to? I mean, people actually dancing, blasting music. But, the empathy does not lack. That's the part that gets me the most, too. They wouldn't recognize empathy if it hit them in the side of the face, right? In a sense of, everything that they're cheering on right now in regards to Hulk Hogan, you could turn around and do it right back to them, and they'll think that, unironically, they'll think that you're one of the worst people that ever lived. They don't ever reflect off of their own opinions because they always have their echo chamber to reaffirm all their bad behavior. So they feel like they can just go and do whatever the hell they want. They can say whatever they want and be whoever they want to be. That, they can hide behind masks. They can hide behind, their jackets with their hoodies on and destroy shit, and then come back and pretend that they're actually moral because they made you out to be a monster. But in reality, they have to know that they're disgusting people. They're psychopaths. Some of them sociopaths as well. You have to be a maniacal motherfucker to think that it's okay to go after a person while they're dead and then say that, hey guy, over here, look at me. I think that guy that you like, he's dumb and racist and stupid and gay. Come on, bro. But I'm here to praise Hulk Hogan. I'm here to say that without Hulk Hogan, I would not be here right now watching professional wrestling. I'm here to suggest that Hulk Hogan and what he done and what he has done for professional wrestling transcends all the things that I can call him out on as far as being a very, flawed and, in some instances disgusting being, right? But wrestling comes before anything in regards to that. Wrestling comes over anything in regards to anything that's outside of my hobbies. Rest in peace, Hulk Hogan. He's been gone now for almost 6 months. 6 months without the Hulkster. It's weird. I'm not gonna lie, it's really weird saying Hulk Hogan's name in the past tense like that. But even for his haters, somehow, some way, he will always be remembered. Some want to choose to remember him in a negative way. Their prerogative, but you're still going to remember him. And others are going to choose to remember him as to who he is and what his nickname suggests, which is the Immortal. What you gonna do, brother? Alright, folks, time to discuss some of the biggest pay-per-views of the year. Well, I mean, really, we're going to talk about all the pay-per-views. And we're going to go from least to greatest, and what I consider to be the worst pay-per-view of the year, all the way to the best pay-per-view of the year. Full stop, though, really quick, just letting you guys know. I'm not sure if I didn't review any other pay-per-views, but I know for a fact I didn't review the Australian show. What was it? Not Clash at the Castle. I think it was the Crown Jewel show or some shit like that. I can't remember, but it was the Australian show from a couple of months ago. I didn't review that one because I had to go to work early in the morning time, and I literally worked throughout the entirety of the whole event. Plus some more, right? And I didn't review Evolution 2 because I can't even remember why I didn't review it, honestly. And I'm not sure if I was at work or I just full stop didn't want to watch it. Although I did watch. I went back and watched the Rhea Ripley and Io Sky match. But the entire show I didn't watch. So if those shows happen to be good, I apologize. But what I did watch, and what I think is by far the worst pay-per-view of the year, Revolution 2025. I mean, there's really no reason to say 2025. The whole thing's about 2020. My point being is, okay, this was the first show that kicked off AEW for the new year last year, and what a horrible way to kick it off. Literally, almost all the matches were either boring as absolute fuck, or, I'll put it to you this way, their only, if I remember correctly, their only good match on the entire show kicked off the show with MJF, and I think it was Adam Page, right? That was the only good match on the entire card, and they kicked off the entire fucking show. Right, I mean, yeah, you had some subpar matches. I think you had Swerve and Ricochet that night. You had some subpar matches, but for the most part, that was the best match of the night, and the rest of the card was absolute dog shit. Right? The Hurt Syndicate and the Outrunners, they were fucking terrible and boring as absolute god-awful shit. I thought Toni Storm and Mariah May did way too fucking much, and the match was fucking dumb. I will die on that hill. I do not give a fuck. I thought Konosuke Takeshita and Kenny Omega did way too much. Won't die. I'm going to die on that hill as well. Fucking stupid. I'm sorry. Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher steel cage match I thought was absolute dog shit. Literally everything kept following the same patterns over and over and over and over again, doing the same fucking retarded shit. And the creme de la creme of fucking fuckery, right? It's the Jon Moxley and Colt match. Because of how fucking dog shit and boring it was. Only for them to follow it up a couple of weeks later with their hardcore match, which is now infamous for being the match that involved one of the dumbest fucking spots in wrestling history, which was Cope, Edge, suplexing Jon Moxley and his back getting pierced and stabbed with a bunch of spikes nailed into a 2x4. Yeah, that's the aftermath of Revolution. The next worst match that I consider to be the next, like just literally a step above the worst show of the entire year, was Dynasty. Once again, the same patterns of people who are just doing the same shit over and over again. Stereotypical AEW nonsense of just wrestling and doing the kicks and the flips and all that other kind of good shit, right? Using garbage weapon spots and doing garbage moves throughout the entire night. Obviously, I think the highlight of the fuckery outside of the main event, which we'll get to, was wasn't it that fucking match with who was it? I think it was what match was it? The Daniel Garcia and Adam Cole match? No. That one bored the fuck out of me. It was Kenny Omega and the Speedball Mike Gailey and Ricochet match. That was the video game match that made me almost turn off that show, if I remember correctly. But then you get to Jon Moxley and Swerve Strickland. And, yeah. the worst finish of the year, quite possibly, with Jon Moxley and Swerve Strickland. There's a strong case to be made that is one of the most goofiest fucking finishes. And actually, you know what? No, I think the Cope and Jon Moxley finish was the one with Christian, if I'm not mistaken. The one with Swerve Strickland, if I'm not mistaken, is that the one when they went through the announcement table and did all the fuckery with the guys coming out and then bomb rushing the ring and turn it into pretty much getting ready to set it up for their Anarchy in the Arena shit a couple of months later, right? I think that was the show that did it. Holy fuck, what a terrible show. And what was by far the worst WWE pay-per-view of the entire year, WrestlePalooza. I mean, the only good match on the entire card. You can make an argument. I thought Punk and AJ Lee and Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch was fine. I thought the match was fine for what it's worth. But the best match was easily Io Sky and Stephanie Vaquer. That's the only match that deserved to have any credentials aligning with a pay-per-view, right? The Usos versus The Vision and Cody Rhodes versus Drew McIntyre were absolutely fucking boring as shit. They bored the fuck out of me. They had no substance attached to it. It was absolute fucking garbaggio. But it's one thing to be boring. And then there's John Cena and Brock Lesnar, which is an abomination no human should ever have to speak of. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking. I don't know what made them do something on the lines of Brock Lesnar and John Cena. But they did it. They did it. They actually had John Cena go out there and they tried to recreate the SummerSlam 2015 stuff or 2014, whatever fucking year it was. And they had John Cena go out there and do a squash match. A glorified squash match with Brock Lesnar. 10 years removed from when they did it the first time, almost, or 11 years. And even at that point, 11 years ago, they were 11 years removed from when they had their initial match. It's craziness. It's craziness. But WrestlePalooza was absolutely dog shit as well. The worst WWE pay-per-view of the year and one of the worst pay-per-views of the entire year. There's a reason why I wait. There's a reason why I wait after the World's End pay-per-view, because I want to be able to talk about that and include it within the actual commentary in itself. It's kind of funny too, because everything is so fresh. I'm recording this like maybe, I want to say 2-3 hours after the show went off the air. Right now it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm recording this right after the show ended, so everything is still fresh in my mind. And I'm just going to reiterate the same things that I said about that show already. I mean, you can always just watch the review I did last night, but same thing. I haven't deviated from my points after, 4 hours? I thought last night's show was fucking boring as shit. That's the whole thing about it. At least in comparison, the other shows were just an abomination because they just kept doing fuckery and dumb stuff, right? With World's End, everything was just boring. Outside of Darby Allin and Gabe Kidd, everything was boring as shit. Everything super duper boring. I thought the main event was boring. I thought everything in regards to the Continental Classic was boring. Obviously, there was nothing, in my opinion, that was worthy enough to do half the shit that some of those guys did in some of their matches. I thought Chris Statlander and Jamie Hayter had no business wrestling for a women's championship. Neither one of them deserved that stature right about now. And yeah, it was just a dog shit show. I thought it was boring as well. I'm not going to talk too deep about that one because, like I said, I just recorded a review on it if you want to go back and watch it. But yeah, World's End, that's probably my next contender as far as being a horrible show. Let me see. Let's see what we have here. Oh, Survivor Series. Okay. Survivor Series, the second worst pay-per-view of the entire year. Horrible show as well. More in particular, it's because it was super boring. I thought the main event was fine. You know, it was definitely serviceable. I thought the main event did its job, but the undercard was absolutely atrocious. John Cena and Dominic Mysterio, they told a good story. I liked the fact that they told a story, but we're talking about a 4-match card, meaning you have one match that was decent, and then you have another match that it did its job well in the main event, and then you have 2 matches, both of them being the women matches, and they were both very, very long matches that took up another good majority chunk of this entire show, and they were both horrible. They were both horrible. That was the worst women's War Games match of all. That was the worst War Games match of all time in general with the women. And Stephanie and Nikki Bella bored the fuck out of me. Nothing more to say about that besides that. That show fucking sucked. And it's because it's 4 matches that I have nothing more to say about it. Oh look, another terrible show. All in Texas. I know, Devante, why must you pick on my favorite shows? It's because your taste in fucking wrestling is garbage compared to mine. I'm your king. So deal with it. Alright, let's go down this card real quick. This fucking disaster of a card. So, I didn't like the Daniel Garcia match with Kyle Fletcher and Sammy Guevara and Dustin Rhodes for the AEW TNT Championship. Completely random. Made no sense to me. Where has Sammy Guevara been since, by the way? Where the fuck has Sammy Guevara been throughout the entire year? Oh yeah, that's right, in the doghouse. The Women's Casino Gauntlet match was absolutely filler nonsense and bullshit. I liked the Toni Storm and Mercedes Moné match. I thought that was probably like the best match of the entire night. I remember liking the Hurt Business Patriarchy Jet Speed match, and I didn't really mind too much. I thought it was I liked it with Kenny and Kazuchika Okada. It's just that with the hype surrounding it, you would have thought it would have been a lot better. But I think that has more to do with Kenny Omega's injury, just to, be a little bit more charitable. But we also had, in my opinion, one of the dumbest fucking matches of the entire year with Jon Moxley and Hangman Adam Page in a Texas Death Match. Once again, fucking around, doing spots. And using spots as a way to overshadow the actual story that they were trying to tell, right? Obviously, the constant focus on fucking using spikes and all this other shit. I don't know the obsession with it. I don't get it. But that was a terrible show as well. The one-match show known as WrestleMania Night 1. You can literally skip this entire show. And you all you have to do is go directly to the main event. That's all that matters in the end of the day. It's just the main event. It's Roman Reigns, CM Punk, and Seth Rollins. Everything else on this card is absolute babbling baby shit. Obviously, the War Games and the New Day. Do you even remember that match? No, you don't. Rey Fenix versus El Grande Americano had potential. Do you remember it? No, you don't. One of the most botch-filled matches I think I've seen in recent memory between Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte Flair. You remember it, but for the worst reasons possible. Jade Cargill and Naomi was absolutely mid as fuck. Jacob Fatu and LA Knight, they had a solid match. It was just, you're not going to remember it. It was nothing special. And then obviously you have one of the worst matches this year in Gunther and Jey Uso with that match might be, I'm trying to think. I don't know if I want to say number 1, but for sure top 3 worst finishes of the year. You had Jey Uso fucking put Gunther to sleep. The same man who put John Cena to sleep earlier this week. Or I guess 2 or 3 weeks ago now. Well, wow. Fucking track of time, I swear to God. But that's the man you had beat John Cena. Retire John Cena. And Goldberg. You had Jey Uso put him to sleep. What more can I say besides that? Now, to be fair, it does start to pick up right about now when we get to Full Gear. I like the Pac and Darby Allin match. That's the first one I could think of. I thought it was decent. I remember really being head over heels for the, the Chris Statlander and Mercedes Moné match. I actually thought that was probably the best match of the night, if I remember correctly. Brodito and FTR, they fucking killed it. I had a blast watching that Casino Gauntlet. That was really fun for the inaugural National or North American, whatever the fuck it's called, championship. I remember that. But all the other matches they were just average. They were like the steel cage match with Hangman and Samoa Joe, which, by the way, Joe already lost the championship belt after a month after defending the belt. It was just super subpar. It could have been more. It could have added more depth, but it was just super duper subpar. I'll give credit where credit is due as well to the Kenny Omega Jurassic Park match, right? Or Jurassic Express. Like, that's the one where the Young Bucks turned babyface again. I'll give them credit where credit is due as far as that is concerned as well. I didn't give a fuck about Moxley and Kyle O'Reilly and their garbage ass no holds barred match, but this is when it's gonna actually pick up. This one's a little bit more different because in reality, this show as a whole wasn't necessarily terrible. It was just because of one match that I absolutely fucking despise with all my heart, and I think it's the worst match of the entire year. That brings this entire card down. Like, everything else was pretty average for the most part, and you had two solid match. You had one solid match, and what I thought, in my opinion, is probably tag team match of the year, right? So you had Chris Statlander and Timeless Toni Storm for the Women's World Championship. I thought that match actually slapped, right? It wasn't the best women's match of the year, but it absolutely helped out that card, right? And you had Brodito versus Kazuchika Okada versus Konosuke Takeshita for the tag team championships, which I thought was the best tag team match of the entire year. That's the best tag team match of the entire year. I fucking love that match. But obviously, with Darby Allin and Jon Moxley and their infamous I Quit match, that definitely brings the card dramatically down compared to where it could have been had that match not ever existed in my fucking eyes. SummerSlam Night 1 would probably be my next best, or I don't know, least worst match, I guess, depending on how you want to frame it. The problem with this show is that you just had a lot of average matches, right? A lot of average matches. The only good, solid pay-per-view worthy match on this entire card was the main event, and kudos to them for making sure the main event delivered, because I thought the main event actually did deliver with Gunther and CM Punk. I thought that was an actual damn good main event. Jelly Roll and Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul, it was very rehearsed. It looked like, but it got the job done. I thought that was a pretty fun match as well. I thought the opener was solid too, if for nothing else a little bit underwhelming, but it did its job and it did what it needed to do to get it across. And everything else in the middle of this card was absolutely average to just outright bad. I think night 1 was the one with Karrion Kross and Sami Zayn, right? That match was just god awful. It was so fucking boring and terrible, and I think that was like Karrion Kross's last match or one of his last matches. Shit was fucking horrible. Lots of because this is the next show I want to talk about. Lots of shows I noticed this year are just one match shows. Like, none of these matches on the majority of these cards actually hit at all. This is Double or Nothing. The strength of this show is almost exclusively the main event. Everything on this card, I mean, you can argue with the Owen Hart tournament with Mercedes and Jamie Hayter. That was decent. I guess that was a pretty fine match. But everything else just felt mid, or even in some cases outright fucking an abomination, right? Like the Anarchy in the Arena match, just a complete and utter fucking abomination. And you had the Paragon, and I remember the Paragon Don Callis family asking myself, why was this even on the fucking card? But then you had Will Ospreay versus Hangman Adam Page in the Owen Hart Foundation Finals. That's the best match of the year, in my opinion. I'm just gonna come out and say it. Will Ospreay and Hangman Adam Page is the best match of the year, and I can see myself putting this in my top 10 favorite AEW matches of all time. I'm not quite sure if it's top 5. I'd have to look at that. If it's not top 5, I think I can see myself calling it an honorable mention of some sorts. But it's for sure the best match of the year, right? For sure. It's easily AEW's best match, and it's the best match of the entire year. Those guys killed it. They told an amazing story. It brought out the aggressiveness out of Will Ospreay to the point that it looked like he was going to turn heel. That was just a fantastic match. They did a good piece of business with that entire fucking match. But this show sucked. It was literally carried by Will Ospreay and Hangman Adam Page. Now the shows start to get significantly better, in my opinion. I will say this about Backlash. It is a pretty, I want to say stark, but they did have a bit of a fall from grace compared to last year. I thought Backlash last year was the best show of the entire year, right? That was the best pay-per-view of the entire year for me. And I thought this show was solid, but like it did lack a lot of substance in the middle. It's really just the opener, which I almost put that in my my top 5 favorite matches of the entire year. I feel like it would probably be like an honorable mention. Like, you see my top 5 as is, right? I think I'd probably say my 2 honorable mentions off the top of my head. I'd probably say Io Sky and Rhea Ripley will probably be like number 6, and number 7 will be this Fatal 4-Way match with Jacob Fatu, Drew McIntyre, LA Knight, and Damian Priest. Quite frankly, it might be the best opener of the year. They killed it in that match. I fucking like that one. And John Cena and Randy Orton. I know that's a pretty divisive match. It depends on how you look at it. Some people really, really love this match, and some people really, really, really hate this match. I'm damn sure in the middle. You know, I lean more towards really liking the match than I do really hating the match. But I'm in the middle in the sense of, like, I can see both people's point of view. I thought it was a fun match, though. You know, I thought both guys went in there and they had their swan song for their rivalry. I thought it was a good match. I thought it was a good piece of business. Another show that I feel like is going to be very divisive to some people is Clash at the Castle. I thought this was a solid show as well. You know, you had an opener with Roman Reigns and Bronson Reed, which was a tad bit underwhelming, but it did enough where I thought, okay, yeah, this is pretty average, but sustainable for a pay-per-view card. I thought Sheamus and Rusev in their hardcore match was pretty good also. I like the bump off the top of, like, the platform through the table. That was good. I like John Cena and Logan Paul a lot. That was probably my match of the night. And something that followed directly behind it that was really close to being my match of the night was Seth Rollins and CM Punk and LA Knight and Jey Uso. That was a damn solid good match too. Probably the second best Fatal 4-Way match of the entire year behind the opener at Backlash. So you got, in my opinion, 2 very, very good matches. One pretty damn good match. And then one, if for nothing else, solid match. I think that calls for a pretty good grade if you ask me. That's why I have it that high up. This one is very, very sad, bro. This is such a sad show. Notice how high I had up here, right? This had all the makings for being the best pay-per-view of the year. WrestleMania Night 2 could have been the best pay-per-view of the year. As a matter of fact, I didn't even need the Liv Morgan match to deliver, right? For the tag team championships with Lyra and Becky before she turned heel on her the next night. I didn't even need that match to deliver. If Cody and John Cena would have been an all-time classic, I would say this is one of the best WrestleManias of all time. I would go that far had that match actually delivered, right? Because look at the bangers that we got, right? The triple threat women's match with Io Sky, Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, right? Right, one of the best openers of the year. Some people even say that's that's what they consider their match of the year. I disagree, but it was still a damn good match, right? Drew and Damian Priest killed it in their street fight match. Braun Breaker, Finn Balor, Penta, Dominic Mysterio, probably the third, ironically enough, coincidentally probably, the third best Fatal 4-Way match of the entire year, killed it in that match. AJ Styles and Logan Paul, they fucking annihilated it, right? And like I said, they were looking like they were on their way, man. They were looking like the car was shaping up to be very similar to how I viewed WrestleMania 31 as far as the crowd structure, right? The match card structure, where like nothing really was an absolute outright match of the year contender, but everything was just solid. Everything was just hitting on points. Very similar, if to anything else, very similar to SummerSlam 2002, right? Had they had a main event that delivered. Well, to be fair, they would have to have like 2 matches that delivered in a historic way, like Rock and Brock and Shawn and Triple. But at the same time, right? Cody Rhodes and John Cena completely brought down this entire show. Had they actually delivered, had their match actually been an all-time classic, had it been like a 4.5 or 4 3/4, had Cody and Roman performed on this show rather than their their match of the year prior. If that match the year prior was on this show, that'd be the best WrestleMania probably since like, man, probably, honestly, since like 21. I'd probably say this is the best WrestleMania since 21. But similar to WrestleMania 21, when they had a top-heavy card and a pretty lackluster main event, same thing happened here. A top-heavy card and a very, very shitty, one of the worst main events of all time, main event of WrestleMania. And, such a sad state of affairs. This should have been pay-per-view of the year. The way it was going, it should have been pay-per-view of the year. Let me see what we have here next. Do I want to revisit this one? I feel like I should probably revisit this one. I don't know if I hold the same temperament right now as to how or not the same temperament, that's not the right word to use. I don't know if I still hold in the same manner, feelings-wise, right now as I held back in January this year. Because it's like, damn, did I really put the Royal Rumble up that fucking high? What matches happened at the Royal? I gotta look at my own listings real quick. The women's match I thought was pretty dog shit from what it looks like. I thought this was dog water. Okay, I don't know. Okay, that was bad. The DIY match I remember being the worst match of the night. I damn sure remember that. Cody and Kevin killed it. I remember that as well. I gave the men's Royal Rumble 4 stars? What did I note down? The final 6 made... Oh, that's right! That's right. I do remember that now, right? That was the final 6 with, what was that? Seth and Punk and Roman and Cena and Jay and I think Logan Paul or AJ Styles. That's right. That was a really, really fun final 6. But damn, was it that good that it carried the entire show? I guess if that's where I put it at, fine. I feel like I should go revisit that, though. I don't know if I have it up that high right now. I can see myself putting WrestleMania 2 above that one. I don't know if I did. I don't know if I agree with that one. And what I believe to be the best pay-per-view of the year for AEW, which is saying a lot because, again, oh boy, this was a shitty year for AEW when it came to watchability for me, man. But I like this show. I like this show a lot. Like, this was the All Out show, right? This is the one where you had Kyle Fletcher and Hangman kill it in the main event. Yeah, I thought this one was very, very good. I'd probably say the Hangman and Kyle Fletcher match, I'd argue that probably might be in my top 10 as well. I'd probably say like maybe number 8. I could see myself saying number 8 as far as an honorable mention, right? Or if I did a top 10, it'd probably be that high. I remember really, really fucking with that match. That was the best match of the night. Between, because that's when I did that in the WrestlePalooza show, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I thought this killed everything on WrestlePalooza, not even fucking close. The Fatal 4-Way ladder match was, decent. I mean, what can you really do in 2025 with a ladder match, right, that you haven't seen already? Kazuchika Okada, Konosuke Takeshita, Mascara Dorada, whatever his name is. I remember liking that match because of the lucha influences, and it reminded me of Angle, Benoit, and Rey Mysterio from 2002. I thought Mercedes Moné and Riho was decent. What other match? The Hurt Syndicate, Ricochet, Gates of Agony match was fine. I remember liking that. I liked Edge and Christian versus FTR. That was a damn good match. Yeah. I remember this is a good card. This is a very, very solid card. But man, oh man, when this is like your best show of the year, not to knock this show, but when this is your best show of the year, god damn, that just says how bad your fucking catalog was this year overall. Was I high when I said this? Really? No, I don't believe this at all. No, I think All Out was better than Money in the Bank. I'll go off of my listings, but nah, hell no. You're gonna hear this in real time. I'm gonna swap out All Out for Money in the Bank. There's no way I thought All Out was better than Money in the Bank. There's just no fucking way. The Money in the Bank women's ladder match was dog shit, or at least for ladder standards, it was a bad match. I fucking hated the Dominic Mysterio Octagon Jr. match. I thought I had no business being on that card. Lara Valkyria and Becky Lynch was fucking boring as hell. The men's Money in the Bank ladder match, I liked it a lot, but not enough to carry the entire fucking show. That's wild. I gotta go back and see what I actually said about that. Is that the one where Jacob Fatu and turned on Solo Sikoa? I thought that was a damn fantastic match. Might even say number 10 or an honorable mention to my top 10, but man, do I not remember going that fucking high for this show. No. And then John Cena, Logan Paul, Cody Rhodes, and Jey Uso. I probably really liked the match. Did I really give it 3 and 3/4? I gotta go back and watch that match. Did I really think it was that good? I don't know if I thought it was that good. I'm going to undermine myself by saying that. But nah, I don't believe that. And I'm going to do it in real time. No, there's no way. Because I remember how I felt about All Out. No, All Out was way better than Money in the Bank. I thought Money in the Bank was a fine show. But no, All Out is damn sure the third best match of the third best pay-per-view of the entire year. I don't think Money in the Bank is that high. Never. No. You know it's a damn shame where I look at the entire pay-per-view catalog that I have noted down, literally the top two. You can make an argument for All Out, but I think really as far as getting your money's worth, I only got my money's worth from 2 pay-per-view shows this entire year. The rest, everything that you heard me say from All Out all the way down, right? Or I guess in this case, you could say from the Royal Rumble in the manner as to how you heard it, from Money in the Bank all the way down. All Out as far as how I have it ordered, Money in the Bank as to how you're hearing it. All those shows going all the way down, they weren't worth my money. Some of them were better than others. Some of them I could have watched on TV and I would have been just as satisfied. There was no need to actually pay money for that. These 2 shows in particular, though, were the only ones worth a damn that needed my money. And that first one was the Elimination Chamber show, right? That's the show with Liv Morgan, and in my opinion, one of the better. I gotta look it up. I don't know if I want to say the best, but I think maybe top 3 best women Elimination Chamber matches of all time, right? Liv Morgan and Bianca Belair, Naomi, Alexa Bliss, Bayley, and Roxanne Perez, they fucking murdered it. They fucking murdered it in that match. That was great. That was a damn good match. The only blemish on this entire show was maybe Tiffany and Trish versus Nia and Candice, but it had a role that I needed to fill, so I'm okay with it. Not every match needs to be 5 stars, right? I actually prefer it that way. It makes other matches stand out. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn beat the dog shit out of each other. They just beat the fuck out of each other and got a great crowd response as well. That was a fun match. And for me, in my top 5 favorite matches of the year, I got John Cena and CM Punk. John Cena, CM Punk, and Drew McIntyre, and Seth Rollins, Logan Paul, and Damian Priest. I thought this was a killer match. This is in my top 5 favorite matches of the year list. Yeah, that damn sure deserves to be there. I thought, again, this show was fun. And then obviously with the heel turn from John Cena to put a cherry on top of this was good. This was good, man. The ending was fucking awesome. All the matches except for one were bangers. The crowd was fucking hot as shit for this entire fucking show. Yeah. Elimination Chamber did its thing, man. It did its thing. Again, 1 out of 2 of the only pay-per-views this entire year that I felt deserved my money. And finally, what I perceive to be the best show of the entire year for me of 2025 was SummerSlam Night 2. I thought this show kicked so much fucking ass. 2 of the matches on this show ended up in my top 5 favorite matches of the entire year. The 6-pack TLC match for the Tag Team Championships and the main event between John Cena and Cody Rhodes in a street fight. Now, I will say this show was very, very gimmick heavy, and I don't like that very much. But outside of that, though, man, fucking hell, was it worth it. Naomi and Io and Rhea, they killed it. I like their match a lot. I know people don't like Becky and Lyra. I don't know why. I thought that match was really fucking good, but apparently people hated that match. I thought it was fine, though. I thought Solo and Jacob was a little bit underwhelming, but it was still a capable match, if you will, right? And Dominic and AJ, that was probably the only blemish on this entire show. But the fact that you had 2 matches that are match of the year contenders, at least for me, that's going to be enough for me to want to give it the title of best show of the year. If you say standalone show, like overall, I'd probably say Elimination Chamber. SummerSlam Night 2 as a standalone show would probably be the best pay-per-view show. But if you take everything into its totality, like you mix SummerSlam Night 1, SummerSlam Night 2, and say SummerSlam as a whole, then the Elimination Chamber is probably the best pay-per-view of the year. So take your pick. I mean, honestly, it's one or the other if you ask me. But finally, after going after the PPV Rewind, we are now going to finally close this off with some of the MVPs of 2025. Now, obviously, I already have it pinned in the comment section, but I have to go over it anyways because it's something that I want to highlight for some of you guys who just want to just cruise down the road and, just listen to what your boy is saying, right? But I will say, though, once again, just as a reminder, if you haven't already seen it, I did put more categories on the bottom of the page. Some of the runner-ups, some of the best wrestlers of the year, tag teams of the year, best on interviews, all this other kind of shit, right? I'm not going to go over it because I feel that's kind of redundant. I didn't go over it last year as well. That's just going to be a tradition. But I will highlight the top 10 best wrestlers of the year in my opinion. An honorable mention I will throw out there is a Drew McIntyre. Man, talk about a fall from grace, from being number 1 all the way down to an honorable fucking mention. But it's just more so because how he's been booked, right? Now, in comparison to how he was booked last year, I thought Drew McIntyre was on fire. You know what I mean? You couldn't tell Drew McIntyre anything. Dude was the best on promos, and he was still probably the best mic work today, in my opinion, or this year so far. But it's like it felt like his words were more vitriolic, right? Not just saying shit for the sake of saying shit. I felt like what he was doing was more of substance, right? He wasn't falling down the card, having to go after the United States Championship belt. I mean, nothing against the United States Championship belt, but just the caliber of superstar that Drew McIntyre is. It's just such a stark fall from grace compared to where he was last year as to why he's an honorable mention. Although, I will say, an honorable mention is still fantastic. That's number 11, essentially, compared to, like, all the other superstars who wrestled this year. Like, I don't have Swerve Strickland on my MVP list, for an example, right? Number 10... And I'm just being objective here. I mean, none of this is necessarily what I consider something that I favor, but just being objective in my opinion. I'm being objective as far as how I'm approaching it, but it's subjective because of obviously the placements, right? Mercedes Moné, she had a killer year. Literally won every championship belt damn near from every promotion minus WWE for obvious reasons and TNA. She won every women's championship belt, man. Damn near every women's championship belt. Except for the AEW women's main title. And even then, she competed for the belt in the biggest show of the year against Toni Storm. She's been consistent as far as her matches. Some I don't like, some I like. It depends on what it is, right? Although she does have diehard fans who appreciate her skills in the ring. So who am I to question anything, right? But that's Mercedes Moné for you. She is number 10, and I think she was probably the best women's wrestler in all of AEW, especially considering how far Toni Storm has fallen ever since losing the women's championship. I mean, honestly, you can probably say how far she's fallen since Mariah May left the company. You would have thought that Mariah May needed to lie more on Toni Storm than Toni Storm does on Mariah May, but I don't know. The more and more I'm looking right now, it's looking more like Toni Storm needs Mariah May more than Mariah May needs Toni Storm. Jon Moxley is number 9. Like I said, being objective about this, just based off of the booking, I fucking hate Jon Moxley. I think Jon Moxley is absolutely the absolute shits, but he's been in the most dominating storyline of all year in regards to AEW. He probably held the championship belt the longest compared to anybody else this entire year, right? He damn sure held it longer than Samoa Joe. Fuck, I think I held the AEW championship belt longer than a fucking Samoa Joe. But, I mean, I can only just speak personally to how I feel about the storyline. I think everything regarding the Dick Riders it sucks. It's goofy, it sucks, and it's terrible. But Jon Moxley was World Heavyweight Champion. He was I mean, at least in AEW's eyes, I'm not really seeing it because they never really present them in that manner. They don't present any of their world champions in that manner. But the way they talk about it, apparently Jon Moxley is supposed to be the main character of AEW before Heyman Adam Page started to, carry that momentum. Sure, I guess if that's how you want to cope. But yeah, no. Speaking of cope, by the way, add on to the layer of people who didn't make it in the top 10, right? Io Sky, quite possibly, actually, yeah, she is. She's not just the highest ranking WWE woman on this list. She is probably the best women's wrestler all year. Now, bear with me when I say this, because I know some people are going to probably be like, well, Devontae, she had a shitty women's title reign. That she did. And I find it very ironic that she's been getting more roles and more time on television ever since losing the women's championship belt, right? My opinion about Io Sky, though, is she's just been really consistent in the ring. There's nothing else to focus on with the women right now because none of them are really hitting at all. None of them, for the most part, are hitting at all. Toni Storm was probably the most consistent woman as far as her character is considered. She has fallen off like fucking crazy. And then you look elsewhere, like, all the women aren't doing shit. So all you really can do is focus on the in-ring stuff, and Io Sky is probably the best women's wrestler in the world right now. And that's what she has. So that's why I gave her number 8. Number 7 is MJF. I think he has fallen, in my opinion, as far as where he was last year. I don't think it's so much the competition that's getting tougher as much as MJF is not really hitting on all cylinders as to how he was last year. I mean, Buddy's been, gish galloping around with the likes of the Hurt Syndicate, right? I can't even tell you what he's been doing. The majority of the upper part, again, folks, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. I can't even tell you what he's been doing the upper part of his career in AEW throughout the duration of 2025. I feel like he's been missing more action than he's actually been getting action. And when he's around to get some action, the action is nothing more than a reaction to his action, not performing to the peak of where he should be in regards to action. Jackson. No, but seriously though, man, like he's not the same guy as to how he was previously. Now, I will say he's now the World Heavyweight Champion coming out of World's End, which is good because God knows that company needs something, some kind of fucking adrenaline shot in the arm. But man, oh man, he needs to get back into the swing of things. He needs to get back into his 2022, 2021, 2023, early 2023 self. Something, bro. Holy shit, man. I mean, thank God he's not even 30 yet, so he has so long to go before he actually hits his peak. But man, the old MJF, come on now, rear its ugly head already. We need that one back. Cody Rhodes at number 6. It's weird to know that the guy who pretty much is the face of the company at the moment is so low in the rankings, and there's a reason behind that. Cody Rhodes is boring. There, I said it. Cody Rhodes is very boring. His promos are very boring. He carries himself like a champion as a professional, and I appreciate that. But he's just boring. But has been doing a lot throughout the year, right? Been feuding with John Cena pretty much primarily throughout the entire year. Had the championship belt before he lost it at WrestleMania. Had it for about a year. Regained it, and now he's been feuding pretty much right now exclusively with a Drew McIntyre, and he had probably one of the worst main events of all time compared to having one of the best main events of all time last year with Roman Reigns. Speaking of which, he's also not on this list. And also, did you guys hear the rumors that Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns apparently might be main eventing WrestleMania coming up this year, or I guess next year technically? Crazy, right? Number 5 I have on my list, and I think I had him at number 5 last year as well. Maybe number 4, I can't remember. Will Ospreay. What hurt Will Ospreay the most this year is obviously going to be the injury, right? The fact that he hasn't been around for, about 4 or 5 months consistently, and he's been gone pretty much for about 4 months, right? It hurt. It hurt a lot. It hurt a lot, but what he was able to do in the upper portions of the 2025 year, I think is fine. Satisfactory. He's still Still hasn't won the AEW World Heavyweight Championship yet, but it's like, damn, at this point, does he really need it? Not because Will Ospreay is bigger than the World Heavyweight Championship, but it's more so like, who the fuck needs the World Heavyweight Championship in AEW when they go out of their way to devalue it more than anybody else would actually do, who could be a terrible champion, right? Fuck me, man. But I will say about Will Ospreay, when he was around, very consistent. Obviously, matches are probably some of the best matches of the night. I love his attitude going into Double or Nothing, and it climaxing in such an excellent match. Like I said, match of the year with Hangman Adam Page. And I feel like when he gets back, hopefully he has that chip on his shoulder still to want to be as aggressive as to how he was before he unfortunately had his injury. Because Buddy was starting to build up a nice solid amount of work, not just in ring, but character work as well. Number 4 is Seth Rollins. Dude has been super fucking annoying and super cringy, and quite frankly, I think the Vision is one of the worst stables I've ever seen in my life. It feels like they serve no purpose, they serve no point, and I understand Seth Rollins got injured, so they had to do it in the way that they did it, but god damn, talk about the most unceremonious damn departure and disbandment of a stable I've ever seen. I mean, holy shit, man, this is like anti-evolution. This is like de-evolution. I mean, the stable wasn't even around for 6 months and they already disbanded. Again, I get it and I understand it's because of Seth Rollins' injury, but, you know, he spent the majority of the time just feuding with CM Punk and Roman Reigns throughout the entire year. And the one chance he actually gets to do something, he gets injured. And now his stable has to break up. It would have been nice to pay that off in 2 years with him versus Brock Lesnar, or, excuse me, Braun Breaker, holy shit, Braun Broken, fuck my life, at a WrestleMania, but them's the apples, I guess. Them's the apples. Number 3 is CM Punk. I think only slightly down from where he was last year. I think I had him at number 2, right behind Drew McIntyre. Has nothing to do with Punk's work, though. I think Punk has been pretty consistent. It has more to do with the person who is above him, or the people who are above him at the moment that have just been doing pretty decent, pretty solid work throughout the year compared to him. Or at the very least, they have been on television more often and been more popular on television compared to him. But at least within their respective lanes. CM Punk obviously is going to sell a shit ton of merchandise. CM Punk is obviously going to be that guy you want to rely on to have a match that's going to deliver in a certain type of way, and it's going to have a certain type of hype around it. But like I said, I do feel like he lost a step or two compared to last year. Maybe it could be the fact that I have rose-colored glasses on, and I thought his feud with Drew McIntyre was some of the best work he's done since he returned to professional wrestling. And I thought the Drew McIntyre shit was easily the best feud of the decade. I mean, it's either that or Swerve and Hangman, right? You gotta pick take your choice, right? So maybe it could be rose-colored glasses. Not to mention, when you work with one superstar consistently like that, or more on a continuous basis, it's like you can get away with more because people are more focused on your groundwork regarding that superstar than it would be for you to just transition and having to work with different superstars and being able to hold their attention as much as you can with just one single shiny little toy dangling in front of your face. I don't know, but he has had a step or two back compared to last year. Number 2 would be Hangman Adam Page. I think he's the best superstar in AEW today, going forward and going strong, at least since MJF returned back. I love this story this year. I like the retribution. I love the redemption arc. I love what he was trying to convey to the audience as far as what he was trying to get across. I'd probably have him number 1 if it wasn't for the fact that AEW failed him miserably in regards to keeping that booking steady, keeping the pacing as to how they were building him up, keeping the momentum going forward with the Hangman Adam Page. Because it's like you did such a good job building him up, even though the story was lackluster. His character, as far as what he was trying to get across, was on point. Now, he may have cringy moments here and there, but for the most part, I thought Hangman Adam Page and his redemption arc was very good. It's the stuff that happened afterwards when he was a champion. Like, the chase is no longer, right? Now you're the standard bearer. And it fell off a cliff, like typical when it comes to AEW, right? Whether it's like the lacking of feuds, the matches, even though they're good and they're solid, they lack substance, like a Kyle Fletcher, for an example. Heyman Adam Page, he's always the chaser. He's very good as the chaser. Not quite as well when he's being chased, if you will. And who I consider to be my number one best superstar of the year, obviously it has to go to the biggest story of the year, to the biggest thing that happened in wrestling all year. John, you can see me, Cena. Of course, John Cena has to be number one. Look at what he did throughout the entire year, bruh. Everything, every single thing that a pay-per-view was surrounding gimmick-wise, somehow, someway, was attached to John Cena. Whether it was him being world champion, whether it was his heel turn, whether it was his work with Brock Lesnar, whether it was him as Intercontinental Champion, or whether it was him retiring. Everything circled back and came right back to John Cena. And would I say this was some of his best work? Absolutely fucking not. Not even close. I would even say this is my top 10 favorite year of John Cena. And mind you, he's only been consistent as a world champion for 10 years, and this still would not be in my top 10. No, it wouldn't. But objectively, everything came back to John Cena. And his skills as a wrestler, it's not as if he hasn't had any bad matches, right? I mean, maybe some more than others, but for the most part, Cena's been pretty nice on the stick. He's been, minus his heel run stuff, that was cringe. But his work has been on point. You know, the stuff with Punk, as I mentioned earlier, the stuff with AJ Styles, as I mentioned earlier as well. Good work, solid work. I even like the Gunther match as far as the retirement. I know some people may be opposed to it, but I liked it, right? And, you know, to know that all the retirement stuff led right up to December, right up to the point where I had to make this list, just goes to show you, right? But, yeah, John Cena is what I would consider to be my MVP and my number one guy of 2025. What a way to go out. But that's gonna do it, boys and girls, for the pay-per-view rewind. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below as to how you felt about it. Are there some spots you would have probably changed up in my top 10? Would you have done some stuff in regards to the pay-per-views? Maybe you would have done this, maybe you would have done that. Maybe there are some matches that I could have probably talked a little bit more in depth about. How about the news? What was your favorite news that came out of 2025? I mean, whether we're talking about the main stuff or maybe we're talking about some of the minor stuff, right? You can always revisit some of the commentary of me talking about this, because everything that I discussed in regards to the news, I talked about throughout the entire fucking year. Keyword search and do your thing. And obviously, once again, third time reminder, pinned comment section, go down there and you can look at all my listings in regards to what I categorize as some of the best or some of the worst of the year. So go ahead and do that, and let's put a bow tie on 2025 and go into 2026, hoping we don't miss. But with that being said, as always, my name is Millennial Smark, and I'm wishing you guys a very happy new year. A deuces and a peace.